Morning, as we go to the Chumash, the Chitats of the day, we start the Chumash of the day, which starts on chapter 2, verse number 7 in the book of Vayikra. The third reading today is Tuesday. V'minchas marcheshet karbanecha, and your sacrifice is a meal offering made in a deep pot. Seilas Bashem and Teasa, it should be made with fine flour. What is a minchas marcheshes? Marcheshes is kli shehuiyah b'mikdash amuk. There was a deep vessel in the temple, and since it was deep, its oil gathered together, and the fire did not burn it. Consequently, the meal offering made in it rechushim. It was something that was vibrated. It didn't come very thin. It had some kind of a density to it, as anything that becomes softened through liquid. So it's like more like a cooking situation, in like a fried situation, more than something that is very thin fried. So that is the basic difference between the two kinds of minchas. Like in a case of deep frying, appears to vibrate, rechesh, wiggles, because it is like bubbles, it moves. It's not thin flat. That's something that is done on a frying pan. This is like a deep kind of a frying. You'll bring the meal offering, which you'll made from these different types of offerings, and I'll bring it to the kohen, this meal offering, and I'll bring it to the altar, which is made from these, meaning a meal offering, which is made of one of these types. Remember, the meal offering mentioned, namely the fine flour baked in a oven, pan fried, or made in a deep pot. So the three different kinds over here. Number one is an oven, a pan fried or deep pot. The kriva, the owner will bring it to the kohen. The gisha, and then the kohen brings it al mizbeach. He shall bring it to the southwestern corner of the mizbeach, the southwestern corner of the altar. And the kohen will lift up the mincha. You're going to lift it up. Askarasa, it's a remembrance, and he will burn it, bring it on, and will burn it on the mizbeach. It's a smell, a pleasing fragrance of God. Now, what are you bringing? You're not bringing the mincha on the altar. It didn't burn the mincha. Askarasa is the kaimitz again. So that's what Rashi says. It's the kaimitz. It's the fistful that he grabbed with his fistful. That's what he brings on the altar. Because as the verse continues, verse 10, the leftover of the meal, which is the majority of the mincha, it belongs to Aaron and his children, whoever is in the Beis Hamikdash, in the service. Kodesh Kadoshim, it's holy of holies, Me'isha Hashem, for the fire offering to the God. Verse 11, Kol Mincha Asher Tagiv Lashem, any meal offering which you bring to God, Leisasa Chometz, you're not allowed to make them leaven. This is all non-Chometz. Ki Chol Ser V'Chol Dvash, for they shall not cause to go up. I'm sorry. Because chametz, leavened bread, were not allowed to be brought in offering to God. So leaven, well, we dvash, komasika priko dvash, any sweet fruit. So you're not allowed to put anything into this thing to make it taste good. So you can't have like juice in the offering, so that it tastes good. It has to be made like matzah, simple flour and oil. Verse 13, however, you shall bring the first fruits offering to the Lord. They shall go in the altar as a pleasing fragrance to the Lord. They shall not go up in the altar as pleasing fragrance to the Lord. What does it mean? So Rashi says, this is talking about the holiday of Shavuot. The holiday of Shavuot also, what can you bring for leavening and honey? A first fruit offering, namely the shtei halechem, the 2 loaves of bread brought on Shavuos, which came from leaven. So that was the only time chametz was brought into the Beis Hamikdash, was in the holiday of Shavuos, with the bikurim, with the first fruits, was brought the bread offering that was brought to leavened bread. As it says, they shall be baked leaven and do the bikurim, first fruits. And also that same time were brought the fruits to the Beis Hamikdash. The only time that was brought fruits in the Beis Hamikdash as a carbon, as so to say, as a gift to the Beis Hamikdash, was the first fruits, and that you had first figs and dates and honey of dates. In general, when it says honey in the Torah, it's honey of dates. So that's the only time in the Beis Hamikdash was brought fruits and dates and honey of dates and bread, etc. It was the only time that was brought in the Beis Hamikdash, chametz and fruits, was only on the holiday of Shavuot. Verse 13. Kol bakar b'minchasecha, you shall have b'melach timlach, you shall have salt every one of your meal offering. V'leisashbis melach bris alecha, and you shall not omit salt of your God's covenant. Me'al minchasecha, from all your meal offerings. Kol karbanecha takiv melach, you shall have salt on all your sacrifice. And the Eibishter made a covenant with salt, as Rashi says. Shabris kruthel melach, the Eibishter, God made a covenant with salt on the 6th day of creation. When God separated the waters, the 2nd day of creation, when God separated the upper waters from the lower waters, God said, in the lowest waters in the world is like Yam HaMelech, is the Dead Sea, which is not called the Dead Sea, it's called Yam HaMelech, the Sea of Salt. So that's the lowest sea in the world. The Eibishter made a covenant with the Sea of Salt and with salt in general, that it will always be, even though God separated the waters and He put some waters above and some waters below, so not to make the waters below feel that they were put below. Eibishter said, I'm always going to have salt on your table. There's always going to be salt in the Beis Hamikdash, and every sacrifice will be salt. So that was, and there was also Nisach HaMayim. The Eibishter made that even though there will be a special celebration on Sukkot, which will be the pouring of the libation of water, to give honor to the lower waters. And that's how God was sensitive to the lower waters. And He made a covenant with them. And that's why we have a tradition to always have salt and to dip our salt on the table, and always have salt on your table. Al kol korbanecha, including the burnt offerings from the animal and birds, imorim, the portions of sacrifice offered on the altar, always had salt. And there was a room in the Beis Hamikdash where they used to store all this salt. Verse 14. In Takiv Minchas Bikurim Hashem, when you bring a meal offering for the first grains to the Lord, which is Shavuos, as soon offering of barley, as soon as it ripens, parched over fire, kernels full of their husks, ground into the coarse milk. Rashi says over here, the word im here is the meaning is when. Doesn't mean if, it's when. Because it's not optional. You had to bring I'm sorry, this is a Minchas Omer. This was the Omer offering, which was brought on the 2nd day of Pesach, not on Shavuos. So this was the Omer offering, which is brought on the 2nd day of Pesach. It was an offering of barley. The only time that was brought barley in the Beis Hamikdash as an offering. All the minchos were made out of silas, out of wheat, flour. The meal offering of a community tzedakah brought on the 16th of Nisan. That's when we can start counting the Omer. That's why it's called Sfiras HaOmer. Even though we're counting to Matan Torah, but it's called Sfiras HaOmer because that's when we brought the Omer off. That's the verse when you bring, when you're obligated to bring. So that's just the scripture referring to here, to the Minchas HaOmer, the Omer meal offering, which is often aviv, meaning as soon as the grain is ripened, and it comes from barley. And how do we know that it comes from barley? From here, the verse says aviv. In the early verse, it says in Exodus, Kisa'oida aviv, for the barley was ripened. And that's what one of the Gezeda Shabbos, aviv, aviv, the Gemara. That's one of the ways you learn the Torah. Over here, it says the word aviv, and in Exodus, it says Kisa'oida aviv. And yet, aviv, aviv, so we know it's from barley. Koliv kluya be'esh, for they dry the grain over fire in a roasting pipe. And they had Rashi explains the Gemara. In the Gemara, it refers to a vessel using those selling roasted seeds, as they do this to grain, or otherwise it could have been it could not be ground up because it was too moist, because it was not yet dried out. So it was in Pesach time. Gadish Carmel, Gadish Carmel broken up while still moist. Nash's Gadish is an expression denoting breaking up or grinding with a grit millstone. And likewise, indeed, he made my teeth grind on gravel. A similar verse, he crushed Garsa. Carmel, what's Carmel? The active of kar is husk, and male, male is full. So Carmel has two words. Thus it means the grain is grounded up, while the husk, the kar, is still male, is still full. When the produce is still fresh in its stalk, hence fresh ears of grain are called Carmel, because it's made up of two words, kar and mel. Kar means it still has its covering, and mel is full, male, full. So while it's still in its husk, you grind it, you put it over fire, you toast it, so you dry it. When the sata shemen, and then you put oil on it, the samta levina, and you put frankincense on it. Minchahi, this was an once a year offering, a meal offering on the second day of Pesach. And that means the night of the first night of Pesach was the Sfiras HaOmer. That's when we start counting the Omer. And it's called, the rest of the whole 49 days is called the Sfiras HaOmer, the counting of the Omer, because it's the time we started the counting for the Omer. And the Omer is this offering that was brought on the second day. And this is the beginning of the new grains. The new grains, whatever was for that's what you have today, Chadash and Yashan. Those grains that were before the giving it, the grains that were before the Omer, and the grains that are after the Omer. The Hikter, HaKohen Askarasa, and the Kohen shall cause its remainder to go up in smoke, Umishamna Akol Levena, from its coarse meal, from its oil, from its frankincense, all the frankincense of it, Ishel Hashem, it's an offering to God. And that's another mincha. That's not part of the this was only brought once a year on Pesach, and never again. There was never barley in the Beis Hamikdash. Barley was only brought once a year. So it was, you mentioned over here, so we actually mentioned over here two minchas that were brought only once a year. The other five were brought could have been brought every day. Two minchas were brought once a year. One, the shtei alechem, the two loaves of bread was chametz, which was a mincha, a meal offering, which was brought on Shavuos. And the Omer, the barley offering, which was brought on the second day of Pesach. And those are two other minchas, meal offerings, that were only brought 2 times a year. Shavuos and Pesach, second day of Pesach, and that's it. You didn't have barley offering during the year. You didn't have chametz brought to the Beis Hamikdash during the year. The rest of the minchas is what the rest of the meal offerings is what we mentioned above, which was the flour offering in the beginning of the parsha, the flour offering, the deep fried offering, the oven offering, and the fried offering. And that completes the Chumash of today. We now go to the Tanya of the day, and we are holding in the middle of chapter 35 of Tanya. The Bava mentioned difficulty. The Alter Rebbe left us yesterday with a difficulty. The difficulty was that the Beinoni, the middleman, needs to struggle his whole life. The middleman needs to be always in the combative mode. He's in the Marines. And he's in the Marines forever. And when he wins one battle, there's another battle coming up. And even when he wins one battle, doesn't mean he vanquished his evil. It just means he put it in its place. But the evil is still there. So the Alter Rebbe says we can explain, and then the Alter Rebbe ends yesterday, but still a person should be happy, and I'm going to console him that he's in the battle. He shouldn't feel sad that he's in a battle for his life. The Bava difficulty will be resolved by clarifying first the comment of the Yunka. Yunka is the young one, quoted in Zohar Pashas Balak. The Zohar quotes a statement of a young sage that said, ala pasuk on the verse, Chacham eina bereishin. A wise man's eyes are in his head. What does that mean? The Zohar comments, where else is a man's eyes? Every person's eyes is in his head. Where else is a person's eyes? So what does it mean? A wise man's eyes is in his head. Every human being, their eyes are in their head. So the Zohar says this is the meaning of the pasuk. This is the meaning that a wise man's eyes is in their head. Tanan, we learned in a Braisa, this is the teaching in the Zohar of this Yunker, this young sage. We learned that a man should not walk 4 cubits while bareheaded. A man needs to wear a yarmulke. Why? My time. Why does a man need to wear a yarmulke wherever he goes? The Shchinta Shayaresha. Because he always has to remind himself that the Shechina is resting on his head. So what is the meaning? That's what it means. A Yid is a Chacham. A Yid is a wise man. And he knows that the Shechina is upon his head. That's why he needs a yarmulke to remind him that he should be wise. The Chol Chacham Eino Umlu B'Reishina. Therefore, every wise man, which means every man, has his eyes, his interest and concern, and hence his speech concentrated in his head. What does the meaning in his head? In the light of the Shechina which rests and abides above his head. Chacham eina baroisha. A man is always has his eyes above his head. A woman doesn't need a yarmulke. A man needs a yarmulke. So a man and a woman over here, because everybody needs to have their eyes fixed on their head, meaning what is above their head, the Shekhinah, the presence of God, which is above their head. Because this is the Zohar continues. Because inon einov tamah lenoida. Now, when his eyes, meaning what means his eyes? His intent and his concern. are there. L'noida dehu nara, he must know the adlik aresha, that the light that's above his head, it's a lemishcha. He must know that he light the kindle to light the fire above his head. Right? The Neir Hashem Nisha, we like a candle. The candle, we need to light the candle. What is the candle? What is the fire? Is the soul. And we need to have oil. The soul, the fire that's above his head needs oil. If you're not going to put oil, the fire will, the body, which is the candle, will die out. So we need to continuously worry about the fire, the Shekhinah that's above our heads. Begin the gufa de banash ipsilta, because man's body is the wick. Which retains the luminous fire, which is kindled above his head. And thus King Solomon cried out, saying, "The Sheman al Reishach al Yechser, let there be no lack of oil above your head." What does it mean? What did King Solomon mean? Because the light above your head needs oil. What is the oil? The body is the wick. The fire of the wick is the Shekhinah, presence of God, which is also the concept of my godly soul. My godly soul needs oil. What is the oil? The and this is the good deeds of man. The good deeds that man perform are the oil which supplies the light to illuminate his soul. And that's why it means, and for this reason, a wise man is always, his eyes are in his head. A wise man never forgets the Shekhinah, never forgets the soul, never forgets the fire. Because once the fire goes out, the game is over. Once the chas v'sholom, the fire goes out, God forbid, then the body, the wick also loses its existence. So in a regular situation, when you don't put oil into the wick, on the wick, or the wick is, ultimately the wick itself burns out. You need to make sure to always fill the vessel with oil. And that's why if you're a chacham, even though you're involved with the body, never forget the soul. That's the statement of the Zohar. Al da chacham eina bereisha, to ensure that he never lacks oil for the light. Ad kan l'shonim. Until this, what we just said, learned today, is the quoted straight from the Zohar. I'm sorry, my friends, we are still left hanging, but we will not leave you hanging for long. Mir Shem, come back tomorrow as we will continue the chitas of the day and the Tanya of the day. Today is the 5th day of the month, which is chapter 29 to chapter 34. From chapter 29 to chapter 34, and you would do the chitas of the day. I want to wish you all a wonderful and beautiful day. God bless you all, and Mit Shem, we come together tomorrow at 8 a.m. when we'll continue the chitas of the day. Have a beautiful, happy, and healthy